The people who found a steady kind of wealth rarely talk about their desk setup. But if you pay attention, you'll notice something most of them share. There's a small object within arm's reach that isn't a gadget or a vision board. It's something quiet that a visitor might walk right past. And it's got nothing to do with pushing harder and everything to do with where their attention goes. So let's talk about the desk you actually have right now. Look at it closely, not the ideal version you imagine, but the real one with yesterday's coffee cup and the charger you keep meaning to move. There's probably a stack of papers that doesn't belong where it is. And every single one of those objects is making a quiet demand on your attention, a pull on your focus you never signed up for and don't even notice anymore. Most people treat their desk like a utility. It's just a surface to pile things on, where objects accumulate because no one ever decided what actually belongs there, and over time, it becomes a storage unit for the unfinished thoughts of your whole week. So how many objects are making demands on your attention right now without you knowing it? In feng shui, clutter doesn't just look messy. It creates stagnant pools of qi energy, which is really just the flow of your attention through a space. And when that flow gets blocked, your mind feels the weight, even if you don't notice it. That's not a theory. You can feel the difference between a calm room and a chaotic one the second you walk in, because your body knows what your mind is still trying to ignore. But most of us never design the space around us, and instead, we inherit the desk, pile onto it, and endure it as if that's just how work has to feel. The ones who found a lasting rhythm don't work harder than you do. They just hold their space differently, treating the surface where they spend their day as something worth caring for instead of something to pile onto, without ever noticing how it weighs on them. And that's where it starts. Not with a new app or a better chair, but with one small object placed with intention in a space that finally gets the kind of attention most people never think to give it. So what do people who figured this out actually keep within arm's reach when they sit down to work every single day? And why does it change the way their mind moves through the afternoon? It's not what you think. Forget the gadgets, the vision boards, and the statues you bought because some website promised they would bring abundance. What we're talking about is a single physical anchor for attention. The kind of quiet object you might already own without ever knowing that it could train your mind to settle each time you see it. In Buddhist practice, this is called dharana. It means single-pointed focus. And the ancient teachers used it with breath, mantras, or simple objects to train the mind to come back to one place instead of running in 15 directions at once. The teachers didn't have spreadsheets or Slack notifications, but they understood something about attention that still applies to your inbox on a Monday morning when everything feels urgent and nothing feels clear. They knew the mind needs a place to land, but the cushion in the quiet room doesn't travel to your office. Therefore, a desk anchor is the same principle, adapted for someone who has emails to answer and meetings to sit through. You look at the object, and your mind receives a quiet cue to settle back into the present task, and to stop running through the list of everything else you haven't done yet. Feng Shui calls this the commanding position. When your desk lets you see the door without being in a straight line with it, and there's something solid behind you, you feel in command of the space. The object sits inside that position, quietly reinforcing the same message every time your eyes lift from the work in front of you. You're here, you're present, and you're not scattered. Qi isn't a mystical force you summon by arranging furniture. In plain terms, it's your attention moving through the space around you. And when that attention scatters across 15 objects, your energy scatters with it. That's why a single anchor matters more than a dozen decorations, because one clear point of focus gathers what the scattered mind has lost and begins to rebuild the rhythm you need to think well. And here's where it gets interesting. The object itself isn't a secret, because a stone is just a stone, and a bowl is just a bowl, until you bring intention to it. It's how you relate to it that changes everything. So what does that look like in practice? It looks like choosing one thing that actually means something to you, placing it where your eyes naturally rest, and using it as a training tool instead of a decoration. Now comes the part most people mess up. How do you choose it, and where does it actually go? Let's slow down here. because this is where most people get it wrong and end up with something beautiful that does absolutely nothing. For their mind, a good anchor object has three qualities. It's small enough that it doesn't demand attention, it carries real meaning for you and not for someone else. And it's visually calm, so your eyes can rest on it without stimulation. That last part is important. If your object is flashy or busy, it becomes another demand instead of a resting place. And you'll find yourself looking at it without settling because your eyes are still hunting for novelty. Meaning matters more than beauty. A stone from a river you walked beside as a child will work better than a crystal that looked expensive and that someone told you attracts money. Placement is the second piece. Put it where you naturally look when you lift your head from the screen. Somewhere inside the commanding position of your desk, where you feel most grounded and in control of the space. When you first sit down, spend 30 seconds with the object. Don't think about your to-do list or the meeting you're late for. Just look at it, breathe, and let your attention settle on that one point before you open your laptop and let the day pull you in 10 different directions. Use it again when your mind wanders in the middle of the afternoon. The object is a cue, not a decoration. Because a decoration sits there looking nice, while a cue actually reminds your nervous system that here we focus. And that small reminder is what separates a trained mind from a distracted one. The Feng Shui Wealth Corner sits at the right-hand side of your desk. Placing your anchor there aligns with the idea of activating opportunity energy, but only if your intention is real and not just superstition dressed up as a shortcut that lets you avoid the actual work of training your attention. Here's the mistake most people make. They choose something beautiful but emotionally empty, or something trendy that carries no personal resonance because they saw it in a photo and thought it looked like what a successful person would own. It must mean something to you, or it's just clutter with better lighting. But here's what most people completely miss about why this works. It doesn't pull money toward you. It pulls your attention back to a place where opportunity can actually find you. Because a mind pulled in 15 directions can't see what's right in front of it. The object isn't a magic magnet for money. It's a training device for your mind. And a trained mind perceives opportunities that an anxious mind scrolls right past without ever noticing the door. That just opened. Wealth doesn't arrive because you placed something on your desk. It arrives because you're making decisions from a settled place instead of a reaction. And a settled decision opens doors that panic slams shut before you even notice they were there. A reactive mind sees obstacles everywhere. A settled mind sees openings. And the same spreadsheet looks like a prison to panic, but like a map to someone who can breathe before they answer. Because the state you're in changes the shape of the world before you even touch the keyboard. Non-attachment is what matters here. Because if you start believing the object itself has power, you've missed the teaching entirely, and the power has always been in the practice, not in the thing sitting on your desk. This isn't about grand gestures. It's about the 100 tiny moments in a week when your attention could have scattered but didn't. And those moments compound into a way of working that produces different results without requiring more hours. One clear decision leads to another. A calm conversation opens a door you didn't know was unlocked. And a single settled moment of attention notices a detail that changes where the whole project is heading. Sometimes in a direction you never would have seen if your mind had been running in circles. The desk doesn't create wealth. It creates the conditions. And the conditions are what allow you to recognize opportunity when it knocks, instead of missing it because your mind drifted somewhere else, worrying about a conversation from yesterday. Over time, your desk becomes a signal to your nervous system. Here, we focus and decide carefully instead of reacting to every notification that flashes across our screen, because the object has taught us that we can return to calm whenever we need to, instead of letting the day run us over. Your environment shapes your mind, and your mind shapes what you notice, what you decide, and what you ultimately create, which is the real mechanism behind why this simple practice changes so much more than just your afternoon. So here's your homework. Find one small object that means something to you and place it on your desk with real intention before you close this video. This is one piece of a larger practice for the relationship between your mind and your money. Drop a comment telling me what you chose, because the best stories shape what we explore next. And I read every single one.